You are not happy with your photos, and the reason is why. No, the reason is why. This is the first tip here. Uh, we're gonna go over a few things here. At the end of this video, you are gonna have the foundational elements that you need to be able to create content with ease and with the same comfort that pros have been doing it for a long time. And those are just basic fundamentals. These are your base camps for your creativity. The first one is obviously your why. Uh, Without that, all the other things fall apart. What we're gonna do here, we're gonna go over a few different things. We're gonna establish your why. We're gonna go over your composition. We're gonna go over the body and the mechanical components that allow you to do that. I'm not a big fan of rules. Rangers are more of a freedom-based, kind of set of folks. So rules are imposed, but rituals are something that you can participate in. So we're gonna make a ritual of collaboration in creativity. The first one here being your why. Understanding who the subject matter of your photograph is really important in making the decisions about what you're taking a photo about. Is this photo going on Instagram? You might take it differently. You might orient your camera differently. Is it going to be printed, or is it going to be a painting? Is it going to be something that is in a magazine? That changes what you do in that moment. All right, so understanding your why is the basis of your creativity. Once you know why you're making your photograph, you can get to the composition component here. Composition is just how that image comes out. Instead of doing the rule of thirds or the Fibonacci sequence or anything else that you need to do that's complicated, let's make it easy, all right? In your composition, you have your main subject. What are you taking that photo of? That why tells you what you're taking a photo of. Use that. In order to be able to give perspective to your main subject, you need a supporting character. That supporting character really helps to frame and tell the story of your why. And in doing that, you can actually tell that story from those posts. Now, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take the mechanical components that your camera has, the basic parts, and use those to get your why and your composition together. The first one is gonna be the body. Okay, the body begins with the back of it, the sensor, the film. Film controls light. Light, light. How much light, how sensitive the film is to light, this makes a huge difference. What the color temperature that the film or the digital back wants to take in, that will change how you feel about the image. If it's a cool image or if it's a warm image. If it's a colored image or if it's a black and white image. That changes quite a bit. And of course, the next thing you want to look at is how long that film or that digital sensor is exposed to light. We call that shutter speed. A faster shutter speed, which means that the sensor or the film is exposed for a shorter time, has a shorter period that that light is sitting there. So that means that you have a smaller moment in time. A longer one means that there's a longer moment in time. That also gives you the component of motion in that component of your composition. So keep that in mind. You can draw that in. And obviously the last part is your perspective control. This is done as where you put your camera in relation to the world, right? When you are taking a photograph of your main subject, if you're right next to them, if you're across the street from them, that changes that. How high you are, that changes that. And of course, the last part, the most important, is when you choose to push that shutter button, when you choose to capture that moment in time. We move now to the lens. Now the lens controls light. It's starting to sound like this photonography is about mapping light in a moment of time. I think that's exactly what that is. So just keep that in mind. So the main thing that you're gonna get when you're looking at your lens is how much light is it letting in and where is it letting it in from? So how wide angle of a lens do you have? That changes your perspective. A wide angle lens lets more of the world in. The closer you are, the bigger the object. The further you are, the smaller the differences are. Now, with a longer lens, like a higher number here, 200 millimeter. The difference in that perspective between what's behind or what's in front is less so. So an object behind a subject will have a less of a difference in sizing and scale with that. That can change how you use that in your composition. Of course, then the other component of the lens is going to be how much light it lets in the aperture of the lens. A smaller aperture, bigger number, lets in less light. The hole is smaller, whereas a larger aperture, wide open, as you might have heard some people say, is a smaller number that lets in more light. This does change the plane of view, of focus, and that's a component that you could use in your composition. Speaking of planes of focus is your focus ring. Now this changes where in space your image is being focused to. Now you can do that with where your body is by moving the camera body, but you can also do that with a focus ring. And that just changes where that light is primarily coming in from. With all those pieces, you can actually put together an image, a piece of content that is more like what you want to be able to put together using those rituals of understanding. It's all about a moment in time and how much light and your perspective in it. And then when you choose to capture that moment, to make an image, so that way you're not just snapping away with a spray and pray and hope you get lucky. Instead, use Lucky's camera's methods and make sure more often than not, you're able to capture the image you want. That's the difference between a pro and an amateur. Ciao.